All right, it is 4:30, Monday, January 19th, 2026. I will now call this meeting of the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the town of LaPointe to order. With us this evening, we have Jay Wiltz, Susan Whitmar.
Here.
Michael Collins.
Here.
Evan Erickson.
Here.
I am present, as is Glenn Carlson.
Here.
Absent is Mary Ross. Staff present, we have Katie Kisner. We also have Rich Kula from zoning here this evening, along with members of the public. First up on the agenda, public comment. Take it away, Paul.
Thank the board for having this meeting in a reasonable time.
We'll let the record reflect or show that Robin has joined the meeting via Zoom. Anyone else have public comment? If not, I'm going to move on to the minutes of the January 8th meeting.
Make the motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on January 8th.
Second. There's no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, Chief Administrative Officer report.
I had $600 balance of the Harbor Commission bank accounts. This was as of Friday the 16th. The Mifflin utility checking account was at $240,084.30. The January revenue, and this was as of Friday morning before any deposits on Friday, was at just under 67,000, which was 54.6% of our budgeted income for the month. So we're right on track with January's revenue so far. And just enough, I haven't heard anything back from the Bayfield School District with any questions about the requests for event dates being on a Thursday or Friday.
Okay. Yep, see you in the morning.
Al has also joined the meeting. Any questions or anything for Katie? If not, I'll move that we place the Chief Administrative Officer's report on file.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, build grant discussion.
I can kind of just give the basics of what we're looking into, and then Cal or Rich, please fill in anything that I've left out that you think is super important for today. We've met a couple times and we've kind of narrowed it down to essentially for this grant, you can submit up to 3 applications. There are 2 that we are wanting to submit to move forward with working on to submit. One is the construction, which would be essentially for the repower and superstructure of the Island Queen. This, just a very rough estimate, would be probably about 1.5 million. Wow. Asking for that. And the minimum for that particular grant is 1 million for the asking. So that would be one, and then Cal obviously could give way more details, and where that's a discussion that him and I were just having with Rich, where was kind of how much detail do we need to go into for the very specifics, especially for the repower portion of it. So that would be like the 1.5 million construction application, and then we also would ask for or submit an application for the planning. That we would have broken down into kind of 2 parts. One would be like 100,000 for a master plan for a new icebreaker area. And then an additional 500,000 for the drawing. So that would essentially, that planning grant would essentially set us up to apply for future grants.
Right, we'd have the blueprints.
Yes,
What's the deadline?
February 24th. And that was kind of a big thing on Rich's part, was he was looking into the different criteria and what all needs to be included in these applications, and can we have that together and ready to submit for both applications by the 24th? And between him and Cal, I feel like we're very confident that we can complete that mostly in-house too, between now and then.
Have you been provided with a copy of our original RAISE grant that we applied for back in?
I believe so, yes.
It has a lot of
It
the,
has a lot of the useful upfront part.
Yes.
Good. The process of making the selection, is there a defined moment when they come back and say, well, we have some questions, or there's sort of an interaction moment? Have they given that, you know, in the process of making the decision?
Usually they don't. Where they will come back and ask questions if, you know, depending upon funding, if they don't have the full amount to be able to award, then they would come back and say, well, we're able to award this, can you make that work?
Okay.
Do we need to take any action on this tonight?
I don't think that there's necessarily anything that requires action at this time. It's more of, we just wanted to be, this is what we narrowed it down to, the two applications that we feel would best serve more of an immediate need and also set us up for a future ice-breaking ferry.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Rich and Cal, too.
yep.
Just to point out there too, Rich does feel like we can do most of this in-house, but there is a chance we might get to at some point that we might need like third parties input, which Cal has already been working with KPFF at no cost for just basic information that he can get on like the master plans and stuff, and like how much that would cost, like a cost estimate, so we know how much to actually ask for. If it comes up that we do need to call in a third party for that, we'd obviously get back up for, and that would require a motion, I believe.
And the letters of support would be before the 24th?
Yes.
And then the scope for the design build, does the scope have to be clearly defined, like the design of the vessel, or it's more of an exploratory, this is what we can do after the fact if we're awarded?
Yeah, so that would be what, you know, there'd be sort of two phases of the planning grant. So, and what we'd be saying is, you know, phase one is about $100,000, and that is to you know, create that plan. So we don't have to go into it saying, well, we know we're going to get this ferry, and you know, we know we're going to be locked into X. Phase one would be, we need to figure out what we want, and you know, that would be something we'd anticipate potentially could take up to a year. And you know, we'd likely partner with an organization that has expertise in, you know, developing that plan. You know, I've provided some of those, what that looks like to Katie, if you're interested, what a master vessel plan looks like. Lots of other ferry companies will commission for one of these. And so at the end of that year, in theory, we would have a reason why we went with vessel B out of A, B, and C, and a reason why we didn't go with A and C. So it'd be a very comprehensive, you know, explaining. And then from there, we would take that and get blueprints for vessel B. So we would not be locked into anything, you know, to ask for the planning grant. It would allow us to, you know, several years to come up and, you know, design and ultimately then have something that we could hand into a shipyard or a, you government agency to say, we can start breaking ground on this. This is exactly what we want. It is perfectly defined and it's ready to be built.
Great, thank you.
That deciding process.
Mhm.
Determine needs. Anything else on the grant, or shall we move on to agenda item 7, loan request options?
So Katie and I talked about what kind of short-term borrowing do this spring, early summer. And I think we're coming up with 450,000 would be sufficient. And the town has preliminarily indicated that they are able to finance that for us at the same terms that we had before.
Last year, see,
Yeah, but 5% for 6 months. And they are probably also, although Max wants to wait until actually the town treasurer passes judgment on it, but based on what he's seen, he doesn't think there'd be any problem with that. Which means we wouldn't have to go into our bank line of credit of 600,000 at all this coming year. And so that's a big improvement. And also that the town is probably able to wait until the end of July to be receiving our annual dock lease payment. So pending Katie Abbott's blessing, I think we're probably in good shape for that.
it's great.
At 5%?
5%. That was what we paid last year.
Yeah.
Versus probably 9 or 10% on
Yeah,
the bank
okay.
line.
Yeah.
And the 450 would account for if we had not received the half reimbursement funds in the month of February, which hopefully we can see that in February, but we're accounting. We don't know. So.
Anything else there? Let's move on to number 8 then, hire temporary CAO and harbor secretary.
Is just one that I received max. There's just the specifics that I need.
Has there been any discussion with Lauren about the hourly rate that is expected?
That's the. Yeah,
I would suggest what she was making when she left.
Trying to remember what that was,
I
but
feel like it was 35.
35.
Was it 35?
But I think the idea is.
I don't recall.
Whatever she was doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, could we just make that the motion?
Sure.
What she was making before?
Sounds good.
and what's the cutoff as far as hours per week before we get into? I feel like it's 30. So I would say it would not to exceed 30 hours per week.
And that would be on the high end for just the basics that.
Right.
Great.
But yeah, if you want.
Unless we want to limit it beyond that, but I think that,
At her previous pay up to 30 hours per week.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we hire Lauren back to temporarily be the harbor secretary at her previous wage for no more than 30 hours per week.
I'll second that.
for discussion, do we eliminate the CAO and just call her harbors? Or do we'll just leave it, never mind.
Yeah, she's gonna be filling in a little bit of those duties probably.
All right, okay. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of bills. Got a shocking total here. Katie, do you,
Yeah, So that amount includes the two BCPL principal and interest payments that are due March 15th. I just wanted to go ahead and get those two vouchers approved. If we do decide that we need to pay those in advance before I leave, that is an option. We have those funds set aside already in our debt service savings account, the one that we use as a staging account. The only downside of paying it as far in advance is we would not receive a month's worth of interest on 600 and.
What would the BCPL give us credit for the interest that, I mean, if we pay down early, I would think that they should give us some sort of break on the interest for that payment, right?
If they don't, this makes no sense to pay it in advance.
Right,
There was more to free up the.
Yeah, sure. I know, I get the logic of it. I'm just,
right.
I would have to ask.
Which, I'm sorry. You have time to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted and it could be approved.
tonight.
I
And
don't have to
paid.
pay it right away. I
Yeah,
didn't know
good.
when next meeting was for.
I will make a motion that we pay the bills in the amount of $805,819.75, which includes a $439,273.79 loan payment to the BCPL, along with an additional $184,840.90 also to the BCPL. And MIFL reimbursements in the amount of $117,776.27. And MIFL payroll reimbursement in the amount of $63,920.79. And a POUTS fee for Middle Road property in the amount of $8.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Future agenda items. I suppose we should revisit the loan request options.
Mhm. By making a formal request to the town.
The build grant should probably be added to the next one also. Date.
And we did submit the tariff, the new tariff.
Yes, the new tariff that the winter surcharge is removed will start February 14th.
Nice Valentine.
Any other agenda item needs?
If we could put the build grant on there just to make sure that we've got it, that'd be
Yep.
great.
Yep, I said that.
Sorry.
Then when do we want to meet?
Thursday, the work in the morning.
That's February 12th.
Yeah, February 12th.
That should work for me, I believe.
Unless we need to meet early.
I think that would be the first day that Lauren is gone.
Oh, so maybe we should meet on the 5th. That would work.
It might be a better timeline for the build grant or the,
So the 5th, the 5th work.
Yep.
It's weekend one more. Which is here.
Yes.
And
At 9?
9 a.m.
oh, I'm sorry, Lauren just texted, she's watching this. She can be there on the 12th or the 5th works. Either way.
Okay.
I agree though with the notion that we may have to have some sort of action before the
Grant due date.
grant writing, yeah. Maybe we need both, the 5th and 12th.
Go ahead, Cal.
If I may, I think the likely thing that we're going to run into with the grant is going to be if we need outside help, which would be a request, potentially for additional, which on that situation, we'd likely request an emergency meeting anyways, just to keep that as expeditious as possible. So I wouldn't, want to schedule anything particular to help with that. And then I think the second thing that, we would need the Harbor Commission's approval on ultimately is just going to be saying, are we comfortable, requesting the total cost of these projects once that's finalized? And, I feel by the 12th, we'll have those answers, and that, it'd be a good time, before we submit anyways to finalize some of that as well. So I'm guessing likely if we need anything, it's going to be on an urgent basis, and we'd have to call a special meeting anyways. Otherwise, the 12th would likely be sufficient for a final vote on how we plan on proceeding.
I like that. Let's plan on the 12th then,
Okay.
And not.
and not the 5th. If Lauren did say she was available. Yep. And then please let us know, if you need an emergency or special meeting.
That'll also be at mine.
Yes. Next up, public comment B.
Was the written or the submitted from online need to be read?
I don't, it wasn't requested that it is. And I missed it.
And I had forwarded that to, it was sent previous, it wasn't because it didn't already happen. So I just forwarded that along to Nicole.
Probably don't need
Just a reminder.
And I'm gonna go there. Yes, please, Cal.
Just since we won't be meeting up here for a little bit, just wanted to do kind of a status update on, where we're at with icing. And, so far everything is going really well. We've got some really cold temperatures. About 12 days out, I see a little bit of warmth in the forecast, but we're making, good ice. And everything seems to be going well so far. And I haven't heard too many issues with, our reduced capacity. I think, a lot of people have found ways to try and minimize space. So that's going well as additionally. I would anticipate that, again, I just want to keep bringing this up. We're probably about, 2 weeks to a week at the soonest. If we get some really cold temperatures before we're into, heavy ice conditions, which might affect the schedule.
Thank you.
Thanks.
A little further out than I would have even guessed.
Yeah.
Me too. Temperatures.
Have you been measuring the ice, Cal?
Yeah, we lost, on that most recent event, we lost all of that. That was about 4 to 5 inches pretty consistently throughout the trail. We lost that. We have several inches rebuilt, and it's, with these temperatures, it's coming back every day. We're gaining a substantial amount. So we're back up into that 3-4 inches pretty quickly throughout the majority of it. And I'm anticipating, in that week, if it stays cold and it stays calm, it's the wind that always does it. That we could start seeing 6-7 inches. One thing that we strive to do is once there's enough ice for the wind sled to operate for EMS, it can be very advantageous because they can get over a lot faster, albeit a bit bumpier than the Nichevo trying to break a trail in the middle of the night. And so we're working with the wind sled team to get to that point. And then it also allows us to keep both icebreakers in Bayfield, which we can move more traffic at 7 a.m., 6:45, which is also really advantageous to us as well. So those are kind of things that we've got on the horizon.
I've heard a fisherman's report about there being about 8 inches of ice out there.
That's off of the approach.
That's
Approach.
the old ice that
Yeah.
didn't blow out, at least where I was.
Yeah.
Why don't we add to the next agenda, like an update, weather, ice update? Is there any additional public comment?
Yeah,
Be-
I'd like to acknowledge that today is a national holiday, Martin Luther King's birthday. What he stood for is particularly important right now, the way things are unfolding across the country. And want to let their extended island family, who actually most of them are in the Twin Cities, good luck and Godspeed.
You tell him, Susie.
Come here.
All right, let's move on then to agenda item 13, Miffle office lease.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss the Miffle office lease and also the review of the Miffle management contract under state statute 19.85 1E, liberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business. And we will reconvene an open session before adjourning.
We'll second that and begin the roll call vote. Okay,
Yes.
Evan,
Aye.
I'm a yes. Glenn,
Aye.
Susan,
Yes.
thank you, Cal.
Cal, just hang on 1 second, Cal.